The grand hall of the Andrali's empire was breathtaking. High ceilings stretched far above, decorated with carvings of stars, planets, and the faces of kings and queens long gone. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen fire, reflecting light across the polished marble floors. Alien nobles in flowing robes filled the hall, their eyes glimmering with curiosity, pride, and a hint of amusement. At the center of the hall stood King Varian, ruler of the empire, his presence commanding the attention of every being in the room. His pale violet skin shimmered under the light, and his deep voice carried like rolling thunder. "Today we welcome a human among our court," the king announced, his tone both proud and demanding. "Let him prove that he is worthy. Let him show his strength, his intelligence, his courage, and his place among us." The crowd murmured. Humans were rare in the galaxy, often underestimated by the advanced Andralis. Their technology, their bodies, their ways, they were considered fragile, weak, and insignificant. Yet here stood Jackson, a human who had been invited into this court. He was tall but not overwhelmingly so, with broad shoulders and strong hands that spoke of hard work. His brown eyes were calm and steady, not full of fear, not filled with arrogance, just quiet determination. Jackson stepped forward. The nobles whispered, their voices thick with doubt. Does he really think he can stand here against a king? Does he not feel fear? How bold or foolish? King Varian's eyes narrowed, sensing a challenge. "Do you not understand the weight of my words?" he asked, his voice echoing across the hall. "This court does not tolerate disrespect. A guest obeys the laws of the empire. You are no exception." Jackson shook his head slightly, his face calm. "Respect is earned," he said quietly, yet firmly. "It is not given because someone wears a crown or rules with power." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that stunned the room. The court had never heard a human speak like this before, unafraid, unbowed, unshaken. The king's pride flared. His posture stiffened, and his voice grew sharper. "You dare speak to me like this?" Jackson met his gaze evenly. "I am not daring. I am only honest. Words can be loud, but actions speak louder. You may have power, your majesty, but I have my own strength, and it does not bow to words alone." For a moment, silence fell over the court. The nobles leaned forward, their curiosity piqued. Many expected Jackson to kneel, to apologize, or at least to cower. But he did none of these things. Instead, he simply stepped backward, his eyes never leaving the king's. "I will not fight your words," Jackson said calmly. "I will show you with my actions." Without another word, he turned and walked toward the massive doors of the hall. The nobles gasped. To them, walking away was an insult, a challenge, a provocation. "The human, he walks away." One whispered in shock. Jackson paused at the door and looked back briefly. "When words fail, actions will speak," he said softly, yet with clarity. Then he stepped out. Outside, the sun reflected off the training grounds where advanced machines, weapons, and warriors glinted in the light. Jackson inhaled deeply, feeling the energy of the place, feeling the challenge before him. He did not need alien power. He did not need technology. He had his body, his mind, and his heart. He had determination, courage, and the unshakable human will. And today, the Andrali's empire would see that words, no matter how grand, could never match the strength that comes from the human spirit. The training grounds were silent, except for the soft rustle of the wind. Machines and weapons of all shapes and sizes lay across the fields, their sharp edges glinting in the sunlight. Jackson's eyes scanned the area carefully. He had no formal weapons, no alien armor, and no extraordinary power like the Andralis. What he had was something different, something the court could never truly understand until they saw it. King Varian and a group of nobles had followed, hovering above on levitation platforms. From their height, they watched with curiosity and caution. The king's pride had been wounded by Jackson's calm defiance. He wanted to see what this human could do, if anything, to earn his respect, or if he would fail and prove that humans were weak. Jackson walked to the center of the grounds. His boots kicked up dust, but he moved with a quiet confidence that caught the attention of even the most skeptical nobles. He took a deep breath, feeling his muscles, remembering years of training, hard work, and survival on Earth. Humans were not invincible, but they adapted, they endured. They pushed beyond limits. King Varian spoke, his voice echoing across the field. "If you think you can stand against our warriors, human, show us your strength." Jackson nodded slightly. "I don't need to fight for your approval," he said, his voice steady. "But I will show you what humans can do." From a distance, a group of Androlese warriors approached, moving with precision and agility that came from years of training. Their weapons glowed with energy, and their movements were faster than the eye could follow. Yet Jackson did not flinch. The first warrior charged, his energy blade swinging. Jackson sidestepped smoothly, not with speed, but with timing and understanding of motion. He tripped the warrior with a simple, well-placed move, sending him sprawling to the ground. Gasps echoed from the hovering nobles. Another warrior attacked from behind. Jackson rolled to the side, grabbed a discarded pole, and blocked the strike. He twisted, using leverage and technique to throw the warrior back. Again, silence fell, then murmurs of shock. King Varian's eyes widened. He had expected a human to be weak, to fail quickly. But Jackson moved with a strange grace, simple, efficient, and powerful. He did not rely on technology or alien strength. He relied on instinct, intelligence, and determination. The final warrior, the strongest of them all, stepped forward. He moved with a blur, faster than the others, wielding a heavy energy staff. Jackson watched carefully. Then, he ran forward, not recklessly, but with purpose. He met the warrior's strike, caught the staff with both hands, and twisted. Using his body weight and momentum, he disarmed the warrior and pushed him back. The ground shook as the warrior fell. The crowd gasped. Some whispered in awe, others in disbelief. A human alone had bested trained Androlese warriors without any armor, without weapons, relying only on his strength, his mind, and his will. King Varian's face changed. Pride and shock battled within him. He had always believed humans to be fragile, weak, and simple. Yet here was proof that their spirit could surpass expectation, that their courage and determination were unmatched. Jackson stood in the center of the field, breathing steadily, sweat glistening on his forehead. He looked toward the hovering king. "You wanted to see my strength," he said quietly. "This is it. Humans may be simple, but we endure, we adapt, and we never give up. We walk forward, even when no one believes we can." King Varian was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. Not with pride, but with respect. The human had walked away from words, and now he had shown the might that words could never capture. The dust from the training grounds settled slowly, drifting in the warm sunlight. Jackson stood in the center, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths, sweat glistening on his forehead. Around him, the Androlese warriors had gathered. Some rubbing sore arms or legs, others simply staring, disbelief etched into every line of their faces. None had expected a human to move like this, to think so clearly in the chaos of combat, to hold his own against beings trained since birth to fight. King Varian hovered above, silent. His violet eyes studied Jackson closely. Pride still burned within him, but now it was tempered by something unfamiliar: respect. Not for the human himself, but for the human spirit. For the courage it took to stand without fear. The nobles began whispering, some shaking their heads, others leaning closer to one another. "It cannot be. He is only human," one said, disbelief in his voice. Another nodded slowly, "But he does not fight like a child. He fights like a storm." Jackson wiped the sweat from his brow and looked toward the king. "You see now," he said softly, "why words are not enough. You wanted to test me, to see if I belonged among you. I do not need to belong, I simply need to stand. And here I stand." There was a pause. The wind carried his words across the training grounds, and they seemed to linger in the air. The nobles had no words to answer, for what Jackson said was true. Power was not in titles, crowns, or grand speeches. Power was in courage, in persistence, in the refusal to bow to fear or expectation. King Varian descended slowly, his platform landing with a soft hum on the ground. He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving Jackson's. "You are unlike any human I have known," he said finally, his voice quieter than before, almost thoughtful. "You have strength beyond your size, beyond your species. You are remarkable." Jackson nodded slightly, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "I do what I must. I do not seek praise, nor do I need recognition. I simply walk my path. Others may doubt, others may mock, but in the end, actions speak louder than words." One of the younger nobles, curious and brave, stepped forward. "But how?" she asked, her voice trembling with awe. "How can a human, without power, without advanced training like ours, move so swiftly, fight so wisely?" Jackson's gaze softened. "It is simple," he said. "We humans endure hardships that others cannot imagine." A massive energy barrier appeared before him, glowing with bright light, stretching higher than any human could reach. Beyond it, the strongest warriors of the Andrali's empire waited, ready to challenge him again. The nobles gasped. None had ever faced this, nor had they expected a human to even step forward. Jackson took a deep breath. "This is not just a test of strength," he said quietly to himself. "It is a test of courage, of heart, of will." He stepped forward, feeling the warmth of the sun fading behind him. The eyes of the empire upon him. King Varian's voice echoed, calm yet commanding. "The barrier tests more than muscle or speed. It tests the spirit. If you pass, the court will know the truth of humans, not just their strength, but their soul. Do you accept?" Jackson nodded. "I do. I face what must be faced, not for pride, not for glory, but because it is right." As he approached the barrier, energy pulses surged, shaking the ground beneath him. Warriors lunged from the other side, their movements fast, precise, and deadly. Jackson did not flinch. He did not falter. He moved with the same calm focus he had shown before, reading each motion, predicting each attack, and responding with clarity and strength. The barrier pulsed again, testing him with waves of energy, trying to push him back. His muscles burned, his lungs ached, but he did not stop. Every step forward was a choice to endure. Every movement was a testament to human perseverance that the nobles watched in awe. Some held their breath, afraid he might fail. Others leaned forward, unable to tear their eyes away from the spectacle. Even the warriors paused, surprised by the human's unwavering determination. Jackson reached the barrier, placing his hands against its glowing surface. Energy crackled, forcing him to lean harder, to focus all his strength and will. He remembered every hardship he had faced, every battle, every failure, every moment when he had been told he could not succeed. And he drew strength from all of it. With a final push, Jackson stepped through the barrier. Light erupted around him, then faded. He stood on the other side, unharmed, his chest heaving but his eyes shining with quiet triumph. The crowd was silent, then erupted in whispers and awe. Humans had faced challenges they were not supposed to endure, and yet, Jackson had not only endured, he had conquered. King Varian descended to stand beside him, his eyes reflecting pride and respect. "Jackson," he said, his voice low but firm, "you have done more than any human or Andralis has done before. You have shown that courage, heart, and will are greater than power, size, or skill. You have proven the truth of your kind. Humans endure. Humans fight. Humans rise when others would fall. Jackson nodded once, his gaze calm. I did not do this for praise, he said softly. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Because when we face impossible odds, we rise. That is what makes us human. The nobles were silent, humbled. Many lowered their heads, some with tears glistening in their eyes. The Andrali's empire had seen the truth. A human could surpass expectations, face impossible odds, and emerge victorious, not through power alone, but through heart and courage. Jackson looked at the king. You wanted to see my might, he said quietly. I hope you have seen more than that. I hope you have seen what humans carry inside, the strength to rise, the courage to endure, and the heart to keep moving forward. King Varian nodded, a rare smile touching his face. You have done more than walk through challenges, Jackson. You have walked into history. The training grounds were quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. The Andrali's nobles stood in awe, their whispers having fallen silent. Jackson stood tall in the center, his chest rising and falling steadily, his eyes calm and unwavering. He had faced every challenge, endured every test, and walked through trials that no human or alien had ever survived. And now, the moment of truth had arrived. King Varian descended from his levitation platform, landing lightly before Jackson. His violet eyes were bright with emotion, reflecting awe, pride, and something new, respect that ran deeper than mere admiration. The court had seen skill, speed, and courage, but now they would witness the full measure of the human spirit. You have walked away from words, King Varian said, his voice low but carrying across the grounds. You have faced challenges no one expected you to survive. And yet, you stand. Tell me, human, do you fear the weight of what comes next? Jackson shook his head slightly, his gaze steady. Fear is natural, he said softly, but I do not let it stop me. Challenges are not meant to break us. They are meant to show what we are made of. I walk forward because I must. Because that is what humans do. The king nodded slowly. And what humans carry within, the courage, the determination, the unyielding spirit, this is what makes you extraordinary. You have done more than survive. You have inspired. The nobles around the field murmured, their eyes wide with realization. They had seen humans as fragile, weak, and simple. Yet Jackson had shown them that strength was not measured in size or speed or alien power. It was measured in heart, in courage, in the will to rise again and again. Jackson looked across the crowd. I did not come here to prove humans are better than anyone else, he said quietly. I came to show that we endure, that we face impossible odds, and that we never give up. Every human carries this strength. Every human has this courage. Today, I only show what we have always been capable of. A hush fell over the court. The nobles exchanged glances, many lowering their heads in quiet humility. The truth was undeniable. The words and pride of royalty could only do so much, but the actions of one human had changed their perception forever. King Varian took a step closer, his expression softening further. Jackson, you have done what many could not even imagine. You have faced the impossible, and you have done so with grace, courage, and heart. Today, you have shown not only your might, but the might of all humans. Jackson's lips curved into a faint, humble smile. I do not need to be called mighty, Your Majesty. I only walk the path before me. I face what comes, and I endure. That is enough. The court fell silent once more. For the first time, they felt the full weight of human spirit, the endurance, the determination, and the courage to stand against impossible odds. The nobles realized that the human before them had not only survived, but had changed the way they would see humans forever. King Varian finally spoke, his voice steady and filled with respect. "You have earned more than my respect, Jackson. You have earned the admiration of the Andrali's Empire. Today, your actions will be remembered, your courage will be honored, and your spirit will inspire generations to come." Jackson nodded once, simply, humbly. He did not need applause or praise. The acknowledgement in the eyes of the king and the nobles was enough. He had walked away from words, faced trials, and shown what humans could truly be. As the sun set completely, casting the training grounds in warm golden light, Jackson turned to leave. The nobles watched silently. But now there was admiration in their eyes, pride in their hearts, and a new understanding of what humans were capable of. And in that moment, the Andrali's Empire understood the truth. Humans endure, humans rise, humans inspire. One human had shown them all, and the memory of that courage would last forever. We survive when the odds are against us. We do not give up when the path is hard. Strength is not only in the body, it is in the heart, in the mind, in the will to keep moving forward. Another noble, older and graver, shook his head slowly. "Perhaps we have underestimated humans for too long," he muttered. "We measure them by their size, their speed, their technology, but not by what is inside them." Jackson looked at the gathered nobles. Judging by appearances is easy. Seeing the truth is hard. But the truth is simple. Humans may look weak, but we endure. We rise, we fight, and we never ever stop. A hush fell across the training grounds. Even the warriors, still recovering from their defeat, lowered their heads slightly. The lesson had been taught not with shouting, not with anger, but with courage, action, and calm confidence. King Varian finally spoke again, his voice steady, commanding, but now edged with respect. "You have shown what humans are capable of. You do not bow to pride. You do not fear challenges. You have earned your place here, not because of my word, but because of your actions." Jackson nodded once, simply, without arrogance. He did not need to celebrate. The respect in the king's voice, and the silent awe in the noble's eyes, was enough. Today, he had walked away from words. And today, he had shown the Andrali's Empire the might of a human heart. The sun had begun to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the Andrali's training grounds. The nobles had gathered closer, still murmuring among themselves, but none dared approach Jackson. King Varian hovered silently, his expression unreadable, though there was a spark of curiosity in his violet eyes. He had seen skill, speed, and courage, but now he wanted to see heart. The true measure of strength was not in victories over others, but in how one faced impossible choices. A challenge was set before Jackson. A massive training machine, known as the Gauntlet, was activated. It towered above the field, a maze of moving obstacles, swinging mechanical arms, and unpredictable energy blasts. Even the most experienced Andrali's warriors took weeks to master it. Today, Jackson would face it alone. The wind blew across the field as Jackson approached the base of the Gauntlet. His steps were steady, his gaze firm. He had no fear, only focus. He did not see this as a fight, he saw it as a test of his spirit. King Varian's voice echoed across the grounds. "Many have tried and failed. You may fall. You may be hurt. Are you ready to face what lies within?" Jackson looked up at the towering machine. "I do not fear failure," he said simply. "Failure teaches. Pain teaches. What matters is not if I fall, but if I rise." With that, he stepped forward. The gauntlet sprang to life. Mechanical arms swung, forcing him to duck and dodge. Energy blasts shot from unexpected angles. Platforms shifted beneath his feet, threatening to throw him off balance. The nobles gasped and whispered, their eyes wide. No human had ever faced such a challenge, and many doubted Jackson could survive even the first few seconds. But Jackson moved with precision. He anticipated each swing, each blast, each moving platform. He used leverage, balance, and timing, turning obstacles into opportunities. When an arm swung toward him, he grabbed it and swung it aside, using its momentum to propel himself forward. When a blast flew past, he dove, rolling smoothly to avoid injury. Every move was calculated, yet fluid. Every decision was made with both courage and clarity. The nobles watched in silence. Some could hardly believe what they saw. One young noble whispered, "He is human. Yet he moves as if he knows the gauntlet better than the machine itself." Minutes passed, and Jackson pressed onward, never slowing. His heart pounded, sweat poured down his face, and his muscles screamed in protest, but he did not stop. He thought of the humans who had struggled and survived on Earth, the battles they had faced against impossible odds, and the determination that had carried them through. He carried that spirit with him now, every step, every move, every breath. Finally, with one final leap, Jackson crossed the last platform. He landed firmly, chest heaving, eyes shining with determination. The gauntlet powered down behind him. Silence fell across the training grounds. The nobles stared, mouths slightly open. Even King Varian, who had seen countless champions, hovered closer. His expression softened with awe. Jackson looked up at the king. "I have passed your test," he said quietly, not boastfully, but with quiet pride. "Not because I am stronger, faster, or smarter than anyone here, but because I never gave up, even when the challenge seemed impossible." For the first time, the king's lips curved into something resembling a smile. "You have shown more than skill, human. You have shown courage, endurance, and heart. These are the qualities that make a warrior and a leader. Today you have earned not just respect, but admiration." Jackson nodded. He did not need more. The lesson was clear: not all power came from technology, size, or alien strength. True power came from the will to endure, the heart to persevere, and the courage to rise when others would fall. The nobles lowered their heads slightly, some with awe, others with quiet humility. Jackson had done more than survive the gauntlet. He had changed the way they saw humans forever. The sun had dipped lower, casting a warm golden glow across the training grounds. Jackson stood tall, breathing steadily, his body tired but his spirit unbroken. Around him, the Andrali's nobles whispered amongst themselves. Some still could not believe what they had seen, while others were silent, humbled by the human who had faced impossible odds and triumphed. King Varian descended from his levitation platform and landed softly on the ground, his expression calm but thoughtful. The wind rustled through the fields, carrying the sound of awe from the crowd. For the first time, many of the nobles saw Jackson not as a visitor, not as a fragile human, but as something extraordinary, a being whose courage and determination could rival the strongest. Andralis, one of the younger nobles, a woman with shimmering blue skin, stepped forward cautiously. "Human, how did you do it?" she asked, her voice trembling with curiosity and a hint of admiration. "Your strength, your skill. It is unlike anything I have seen." Jackson looked at her and smiled faintly. "I did not do it because I am stronger than you," he said simply. "I did it because I never stopped, even when it seemed impossible. Strength is not only in the body, it is in the heart, the mind, and the will to continue. That is something every human carries. That is what I relied on." The nobles exchanged glances. Many had underestimated humans, thinking them weak, slow, and fragile. But Jackson had proven that even without advanced technology or alien strength, a human could endure challenges that even the most trained Andralis could struggle with. His calm determination, his patience, and his courage were lessons they could not ignore. King Varian stepped closer. His violet eyes softened, reflecting both pride and curiosity. "Jackson," he said, his voice steady but edged with emotion, "you have shown more than skill. You have shown courage that is rare, perseverance that is unmatched, and heart that is remarkable. You have not only endured, you have inspired. Today, the court has seen the truth of humanity. Jackson bowed his head slightly in respect, not arrogance. I do not seek praise, Your Majesty, he said. I only walk the path in front of me. I face challenges because I must. And in doing so, I hope to show that even the simplest actions, done with determination, can make a difference. The nobles were silent. Their eyes were fixed on Jackson, their previous doubts replaced by admiration. The whispers of disbelief had turned into murmurs of respect. Some approached cautiously, bowing slightly, acknowledging his courage. Others simply watched, humbled by the human who had faced the gauntlet and walked away unbroken. King Varian's gaze softened even more. For centuries, he had ruled with pride, expecting obedience and reverence. But Jackson had walked away from his words, faced every challenge with calm courage, and shown that strength was not in titles or commands, it was in action. Heart and spirit. Jackson looked across the court and said softly, Do not measure me by my size, my species, or my tools. Measure me by my choices, my courage, and my will to rise. That is what humans are. That is what I am. For a moment, silence reigned across the grounds. Then King Varian spoke, his voice carrying across the field. You have done what few could. You have shown the Andrali's empire the truth of your kind. You have earned your place here, not by words, not by titles, but by your heart, your strength, and your will. Jackson nodded once, simply, his expression calm and humble. He did not need further praise. The court had seen what mattered most. The human who walked away from prideful words had returned, not to boast, but to show the might of the human spirit. And in that quiet moment, the Andrali's nobles realized something they could never forget. Humans were not weak. Humans were not simple. Humans endured, fought, and triumphed against impossible odds. Humans were remarkable. The evening sky painted the training grounds in shades of orange and red. Shadows stretched long across the field, and a quiet stillness settled over the court. Jackson stood at the center, his body tired, but his heart steady. He had proven his strength, his courage, and his determination. Yet, King Varian was not finished. The final test was not of skill or agility, it was of character, of spirit, of the human heart itself.